Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.
Hello and welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Datia. We have with us Mr. Nansekar Tyagaraja, Director at Comtrends Research, joining in. Welcome to the show, Nansekar. My first question coming to you over here is the way commodities have behaved lately. It's been a pretty volatile ride for them, taking into consideration how the dollar has performed. The US stimulus is something which is impacting it as well. And in between, you have the concerns that keep erupting about the US China trade war. And lastly, from Europe, you have the Brexit, which comes in. Overall, how do you see the commodity market scenario evolving from here on?
You are right in saying that there is a lot of volatility in the near term. But what you have to understand is that in the commodity market, the supply-demand dynamics matter the most. So at this point in time, there are certain commodities where demand has been hit badly because of the COVID situation. But at the same time, the same commodities for which the demand has been hit, the supply side has also had a lot of issues.
Hmm.
So because of that, the fresh capacity additions have not taken place in many of the commodities. That is going to lead into supply issues going forward as well. And assuming that all this situation becomes normal in the next quarter, the first quarter of 2021, the demand will also increase. So you'll have a situation where the demand will become normal, but the supply situation will start worsening more and more. So clearly, we're heading into a very strong commodity prices going forward across the board. It's not just non-agri or agri. Across the board, you're going to see this particular situation happening where the supply problems will increase and the demand will also go up simultaneously. So we are heading into that kind of a situation. So you have to be very, very careful. The raw material prices are expected to shoot up in the coming quarters. Uh, we should not just be complacent about what's happening right now and feel that things are going to be normal. No, it's not going to be. But at the same time, as far as commodity prices go, you have to be absolutely very careful because the way it is looking, it's looking really, really bad in the sense that it can really sharply shoot up from here in many of the commodities.
Right. So taking this conversation, forward, let's start with what's happening with crude. From the kind of rates that we saw on the futures in the month of March, where we went negative, the recovery has been fabulous now. However, overall, if you go to see, it's been a range bound trade that we have been witnessing. Now, clearly, the last data point that I picked up was the crude inventory built up that we've been seeing as well. How do you see crude moving from here on?
See, we'll have to now look at it from the macro point in the first place. Now, when you look at it from the macro point, you have a long-term view, which is very bearish for crude. Simply because, if you look at the way, the electric cars are going to evolve, and you look at the way even air travel slowly going to become electric, hopefully in 10 years' time. All these are major demand drivers for crude. So the macro picture, the long-term macro picture is definitely weak. And which is the reason why OPEC is continuously upping output just to survive. They themselves know that, there is a long-term problem and they cannot solve it with fossil fuel. In fact, many of these companies, what I hear, are all moving into alternative energy slowly. They're investing themselves. Many of these oil companies, many of these energy companies are, building their portfolio. Portfolio meaning, I'm saying, investing in, alternative energies, different types of, not just purely alternative energies, anything to do with alternative fuel, alternative energy. So all this is happening clearly states that in a longer term, the macro picture is extremely weak for crude. But in the near term, there could be, demand supply issues which can keep it higher, and then OPEC as a body can start talking prices higher. They have this ability to come together as a group and start talking prices higher, which is quite likely going forward. They might tend to keep pushing prices to some extent, but demand is going to falter big time going forward. That is very clear. Now that the COVID situation has already curbed demand in a big way, uh, going forward too, I think there is going to be a lot of demand destruction as far as crude is concerned. It will be met with some supply response, but I think the world is now coming to terms with alternative energy, and that's a big, big threat for crude going forward. Now, we've been talking about alternative energy for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But now it's now people are actually seeing what's happening on the ground. You see Tesla, the way the sales are picking up. And India also, electric cars have been introduced. And the two-wheelers, you'll see that also a lot of electric cars have started coming. Electric scooters have started coming. So private transport, even public transport to some extent, electric buses have started coming. So I'm clearly not bullish on crude in a big way going forward, but short-term fluctuations could, on the back of OPEC cutting outputs, can push the prices a little bit higher from here. In fact, producers, there are organizations which produce crude, like the Middle East, other bodies, they hedge crude oil in a big way.
Right.
When they have their own produce, they tend to hedge it because in the overseas platform, if you talk about NYMEX, prices are available for 10 years. So you can easily hedge based on your price outlook. And I've seen the price, the hedging book developed for most of these energy companies. And if you look at the next 5 to 10 years, they've had so much of hedges, which means that very bearish in the next 5 to 10 years. They're going on selling whatever produce they're having at whatever price is available. So that clearly says that the long term is not looking good for them.
Right. So do you think there are still hopes that OPEC Plus will keep the existing cuts further into 2021? Or do you think they will even increase the cuts from here on?
They'll have no choice but to keep cutting. They will absolutely have no choice, because it's the only way they can sustain prices. And in fact, they might even try to rope in non-OPEC bodies also to adhere to the cuts, because that's the only way they can survive and ensure fossil fuel prices keeps at least stable, if not going down. But the inevitable thing is that alternative energies will catch up, and it will put a lot of pressure on crude prices going forward. And the only weapon which is available with OPEC is to keep cutting production. So that they will keep doing.
Right. So, when we say a deeper production cut that could happen, the next meeting is on the 30th of November. What is the decision that you're expecting? Number one, how much further cuts are you expecting? And number two, what's the kind of range that we could expect with regards to crude prices if production cuts are continued? Because right now there are two scenarios that we need to watch out for. One is if there are continued widespread lockdowns, if there is any weaker than anticipated economic data that comes out of the US. And thirdly, Libya is surging oil production still in spite of the cuts. Now, if there is a vaccination that is in place, and if the production cuts are stalled, then what is the range we should be looking at? And if nothing of this happens, the demand continues to fall, then what's the kind of range we should be looking at?
Yeah, the supply-demand dynamics. We have almost around 94 million barrels of crude being produced. And against that, you have a supply of around 92 million barrels as of now because of the COVID situation. Uh, I think in the first quarter of 2021, the gap could be bridged very slowly,
Mm,
which is the reason why I think OPEC was planning to lift the cuts sometime back. But looking at the economic situation and looking at the way this COVID thing is progressing, I think OPEC has decided not to extend the cuts in the first place.
mm,
Now, if things worsen, I think they will be left with no choice but to continue the cuts and possibly even uh, start cutting more. Now, having said that, there will be a lot of these countries like Libya, Nigeria, and the smaller countries, the smaller producers. They just might not adhere to these cuts because their economies are heavily dependent on
mm.
crude oil. So they just might not and keep increasing supplies. This is bound to happen. I think OPEC also knows this because they don't have an iron hand to stop the production from happening or stop sales from happening. So they have only a limited amount of ability to stop this. So that's exactly what it is. You might see these production cuts increase based on the COVID situation, but it might it might have a short-term effect. The point is that it might have a short-term positive effect, and but in the medium term to long term, again there will be sellers emerging at higher levels, and that could start pushing prices lower. The range we're looking at basically is around $50 on the highest side. That's going to be the worst case. And around 25 to $30 on the lower side. But this 25 to 30 will probably happen in the third and the fourth quarter because the market will be a little optimistic and, in the first two quarters because of the revival of the economy based on the hopes that there will be a cure for COVID-19. I think there'll be some bullishness for sure in the first two quarters. We will go towards $50. That's going to be a psychological mark. And I see that 50 to 55, there are a huge amount of orders and offers from different producing countries, which means they're willing to sell at that level and then lock that price. Um, so, so that's going to be a big resistance zone, 50 to 55. And at the lower side, 25 to $30.
Right. So with this, what does Biden's win actually mean for the oil market? Because what's happening is Trump somewhere was a friend with regards to where OPEC goes. Now with Biden coming in, do you see any structural changes happening to this market?
Yeah, I think he has very clearly mentioned that he's going to support alternative energy. And they might possibly even go back to the Paris Accord, which happened during the Obama administration, which Trump completely rubbished. So these are all things which are against the oil industry going forward. So that clearly hints that oil is not the place to be if you're a producer. But as a consumer, I think there are good times to come as far as oil is concerned. For a change, after a long, long time, we'll all be seeing much lower price. And I hope the government passes that benefit to the consumers in India, probably. So we are headed into that kind of a scenario where the new administration will find it difficult to balance the oil producers as well as consumer, because you should also understand that US is one of the largest consuming country. So they would kind of want to see that the public gets lower prices. But shale oil is also an industry which is going to suffer going forward. So these are clear negative signs for the oil industry, especially the producing side.
Right. And overall, if you see in terms of where bullion is concerned, How are you seeing gold and silver move from here on? Because overall, again, it's got a volatile ride. Uh, where do you see support coming in? Because now it seems that the time we saw the 35,000 rupees kind of a price for gold, now 50,000 is the new normal. Do you think that's the base that we need to look at?
See, there are various schools of thoughts, and then different views that keep emerging on precious metals. Uh, the present theme is that the safe haven buying, which really took it all the way up to 2050, that has gone after both the these companies have announced vaccine trial results. Uh, if you look at the latest ETF data in the last few weeks,
Mm.
there's been a huge outflow after the announcements. So the safe haven element is certainly gone from precious metals. Having said that, the economic recovery needs a lot of stimulus to be pumped in. So that is a big boost for gold if it does happen. But again, the question is with the Senate, which is equally divided between Republicans and Democrats, will such a stimulus ever come?
Mm.
That's going to be the big question now. So the markets, I think, will be eagerly looking forward to January, mid-January, when the new president takes over, and his ability to push uh, these policies in a divided Senate. So that will take at least 3 months. So till that uncertainty is on, gold prices could be in sort of a range with possibly 1800 on the downside or even slightly lower to 1750 on I'm talking about the international prices. So that would if rupee were to kind of be stable, I think we're looking at anywhere between 45,000 levels as a strong support area. But with the stimulus packages and the deficits increasing in the US, there is nowhere but to go to gold as far
Correct.
as returns are concerned. So the upside is still pretty much intact. The long-term upside of $2,500 is pretty much intact. But it might happen post January, not immediately.
Mm. So, and do you think the weakness in dollar will continue and that will continue to support gold prices?
Absolutely. Because, if the fiscal stimulus continues to happen,
Mm.
it will weaken the dollar in a big way. So, and also the new administration is not, would basically want the dollar to weaken more because their exports from the US will increase if you weaken the dollar more and more. Uh, and by keeping the rates lower for a long time, naturally the dollar will tend to increase. I mean, the dollar will tend to weaken against other currencies. So that will, in a big way, support gold.
Mm.
Uh, that's why I said the stimulus package. If the stimulus package is going to be good, then by virtue the dollar will start weakening, and that will support gold. It will support metals. It will support all the other commodities.
Right. And if you talk about base metals as well, in between we did see a good rally that was being caught up right now. Copper, especially if you go to see, has been getting a boost from the rebound that we are seeing in China's manufacturing and infrastructure activity. Uh, how would your outlook be with regards to base metals if you have to take especially copper, lead, nickel, and zinc into consideration?
Though all these commodities move as a pack, but individually fundamentals are different for many of these commodities. For example, if you take lead, I don't think it has the kind of positive fundamentals that copper and nickel have. Uh, Copper and nickel, of course, are tied to the electric vehicle demand as well. And overall the steel demand, overall the metal demand rubs off on both these commodities and zinc also to a great extent, but not on lead. So that's the key thing to understand, that you have supplies which are going down because of COVID situation. Mine supplies are coming down. Staff are not coming for production. And at the same time, you have demand which is more or less being stable and expected to go up if the COVID situation becomes normal. So there will be a deficit. Already, IL, the International Body for Copper, is predicting a deficit of around 300,000 tons in 2020. And with producers not willing to put up fresh capacities, the deficit will only keep going up. So metals are the commodity to be if you're really bullish in this complex, and I think there's a long way to go. And specifically in copper and nickel, because both have a very strong fundamental demand story, which is the EV demand coming for both these. So I would keep buying copper and nickel on every dip possible because there's much higher levels to see from here.
Right. And overall, if the vaccine progresses faster than what everyone is anticipating right now, plus you have the US stimulus package that's announced, Brexit gets resolved, US-China trade war gets done. What's the impact are we expected to see on this entire space, according to you?
Yeah, like I said, the demand supply equation itself is looking very bullish for metals. Now, add to that all these factors that you're talking about will give it a big swing higher from here. That's the reason why you're seeing funds, the net managed money positions, increasing in copper and increasing in other metals every month. Month on month, you're seeing an increase in the speculative trading that's happening in metals. So that clearly hints that, in spite of all the negative factors, even if suppose there's a US-China trade war, which is going to continue in 2021 as well, still that's not going to stop metal prices from going up. They could probably arrest or cap the upside for some time. It won't be enough to stop the prices from rising.
Right. So overall, if I understand well from here on, basically longer term perspective, especially with regards to where crude is concerned, we are going to see jitters from here on, taking into consideration the supply demand mismatch. Secondly, with regards to bullion as well, it seems the uptrend is here to stay, and probably, bullion and base metals could be a space that one should look at, right?
Absolutely, yep. So if you're positioning yourself in the commodity markets, leave this month and next month away, because we're nearing a year end. We should also understand that most of these foreign companies or FIs or foreign traders have January to December as a year end. So we are nearing that year end, and it's Christmas bonus time for them. So they would, that's the reason why you're seeing this volatility increasing, and it will continue to do so till December, Christmas time. A new trend would emerge from January in both base metals and metals, which is likely to be very bullish. And these two commodities, these two segments, one needs to be absolutely clearly positioned into on any dip from here. If I have to, start from the top five, I would look at copper, I would look at nickel, then silver, and then gold. And possibly zinc after that. So that's the kind of commodities that one needs to be positioned in 2021. And use this opportunity which is coming in by December. You will see some falls by the end of this year, and that should be used to stay long in many of these commodities.
Absolutely. So I think these are commodities we should be watching out for. Thank you, Gnanasekhar, so much for joining us on the show. It was a pleasure to have you and get insights to get from you with regard to the commodities market. Hoping to see you back soon again once things improve from here on. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well. Thank you and stay safe.
The pleasure was mine.